Righty, our final segment today is higher or lower. And today we're looking at iconic Australian sporting moments. And so the way it works is we're going to look at 7 in total and we're going to put them head to head. And we're going to discuss what is more iconic. And what we decide is the more iconic one out of the two. We'll move on to the next round and we'll bring in another iconic moment. And whoever's standing at the end will be the champion. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the first round matchup is going to be Stephen Bradbury winning at the 2002 Winter Olympics. Even though I said 10 minutes ago I don't believe in the Winter Olympics, we're going to include it here. And that's going to go up against Ash Barty winning Wimbledon in 2021. Two very, very iconic moments for different reasons.
In my opinion, this is like a landslide. I think Stephen Bradbury is 100% iconic. Way more iconic. Respectfully to Ash Barty, I watched that game. It was a beautiful game. She destroyed the whole tournament. But you're not seeing replays of Ash Barty winning Wimbledon now. Whereas like doing a Bradbury, that's literally a saying. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I think if we're talking, we're not saying that it wasn't this huge feat for Ash Barty to win that. And the context is amazing. Second Aboriginal woman to win it, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's amazing. But when we're talking iconic, Stephen Bradbury, without a doubt.
I agree with all that. And I think Stephen Bradbury should go through. But I want to go out to bat for Ash Barty for a second. The first Australian woman to win at Wimbledon, I think, in 40 years.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not iconic. It is an iconic moment.
Groundbreaking. Surely that has to carry some weight.
No, it does.
That's why it's on the list.
Does. Yeah.
Let's remind listeners how Stephen Bradbury won. Why is it so iconic, bro?
No, it's just iconic because, first of all, in the semifinals.
No, take it back a step. In the heat.
In the heat it happened?
So what happened in the heat was it was top 2 qualify for the semis. And so they did the race. And in his heat was the previous Olympic champion and the current favorite. And so he came third behind those two. But what happened was the guy who came second illegally blocked someone else off. And so he got eliminated. So he went through to the semi. And then what happened in the semi, row?
Semi, mate, first, miracle moment. Everyone falls. He does the same thing. He goes through from last to first. Then he's in the final. No, expectation or anything to win. And then you hear the stories in the background, people like this and that. His whole strategy was like, I'll just stay at the back and just see what happens. And the last lap, bell rings, everyone falls, and he just goes through. Arms aloft.
That is actually one of the
I was going to cry. Salt Lake City, Utah? What a moment.
It's actually amazing.
The Mormons sitting in the stands.
I think with Stephen Bradbury, right, there's like a massive story behind it. Ash Barty is just a gun. She's just an absolute weapon.
But that's why I'm low-key arguing towards Ash Barty, because Stephen Bradbury shithoused his way through all the rounds.
But that's
by
why it's
circumstance.
But that is what made it iconic.
It's fair.
But I also agree, Ash Barty, it's huge.
She's a victim of her own success. Do you know what I mean? Like she was there and she's too good and she was meant to win it and she won it. And it's like,
well done.
Well done, Ash. Job done.
All right. So we're saying Stephen Bradbury will go through.
Yes, please.
Based purely on like how iconic something is, it has to be Bradbury.
Yeah.
Done. All right. So sorry, Ash Barty. Next up, we have the Queensland State of Origin team winning 8 in a row. So from 2006 to 2013, they won every single year. I didn't see a win from the ages of 7 to 16.
Formative years.
Very formative years, dare I suggest. Every year coming to school, like, dude, we're going to win this year. And lo and behold, we got pumped.
I'll leave this one to the experts.
Don't look at me. I'm not an expert either.
Okay, so it looks like it's us.
Just us.
What about being the New South Wales team to win the first one after that?
Is that iconic?
I think that's more iconic, no?
Like,
2014 when Jared Hayne came back.
You think that's it. It's not State of Origin anymore. It's just Queensland Cup.
True.
I think that's a thing anyway. But I still think Bradbury, when we're talking Australia-wide and it being a moment that everyone can kind of recall,
True.
I think it might have more weight.
Yep.
But for me personally, the origin, like you can't beat State of Origin and the hype around it. So I'm a bit torn between these two.
Not to mention the fact that Queensland team is arguably the greatest team that's ever been assembled. Literally, you look across the park and there was Hall of Famers, future immortals.
You look at that lineup, it's crazy. Crazy.
So the fact their dominance, like going in every year, you just knew who was going to win. Like no team has been that dominant.
But that's so boring.
Is it like Ash Barty should have won? Like
correct.
that good that they should have won anyways.
Also, in what context are these two moments ever compared to one another?
Here on this podcast, Kevin.
Queensland 8 in a row, 8 origins in a row. But
Correct.
like what Kat said, right? I actually agree with that. It's not Australia wide.
True. No, that's
It's
true.
like New South Wales, Brisbane, Queensland, job done. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like maybe the Queenslanders celebrate that better than Stephen Bradbury, but like overall, how can you look past it?
I think when we're comparing a sporting moment that is really shared between two states and maybe a few like fringes
Mm.
versus something that every Aussie was talking about and still talks about and still acknowledges and still mentions.
Yeah.
Bradbury is more iconic.
All right. Sorry, Queensland. All right. Next up, then, fine. If we're going to go individual versus individual, Stephen Bradbury versus Cathy Freeman.
Oh,
400 meter final at the 2000 Olympics.
It's Cathy Freeman. for
Ha-
me.
It has to be just pure.
Absolutely. But let's debate it for a second.
well, Cathy Freeman's little sperm suit.
Sorry. What? Is that the official name of it?
No.
No, that's special. This
Yeah.
guy.
To be honest, Stephen's done well, but Cathy, unfortunately,
Kathy wins it for the sperm suit.
yeah, just for the fit alone, you know.
Did they ban the suit after that? Because I've never seen anyone running in a suit.
I don't know.
I
Actually,
do think something changed.
I swear
with
they
what
changed
they
it.
can wear. Yeah.
It's like in the swimming when they had those like
Yeah.
aerodynamic suits. that
those
they
were
all in.
actually called super suits.
super suits.
Yeah,
right?
the super suits. Yeah, and when all the world records got broken.
So just to maybe listeners who don't know, Cathy Freeman, Australian runner, first Indigenous woman, dare I suggest, to win a gold medal for Australia at the 400 meter Olympic, 400 meter sprint. And at the 96 Olympics, she won silver. So she came in pretty much as either the favorite or second favorite. She also lit the torch at the Sydney Olympics. So quite a bit of pressure
Mm.
at ANZ Stadium or whatever it was called back then. 100,000 people watching, weight of a nation. And she came through.
Won it at home. Does that
Won
add
it
to
at
the?
home.
Yeah,
she
that-
won it.
Yeah.
Big time.
She won
adds to
it easily as well. If you go back and watch it, she won it by at least a length or two. So sorry, Stephen.
Yeah, it has to be.
It's Kathy.
Has to be Cathy.
It's Kathy. That was so iconic as a kid growing up,
Mm.
looking at a female doing what she was doing. I think we have seen a moment that felt like that since then, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Can I just say as well, shout out to Stephen Bradbury. He's made an entire career
I know.
out of that one moment.
It's
He's
gold
making
medal,
like media
brother.
appearances on radio, TV. Remember that show 20 to 1 on Channel 9?
Yes.
And he was always there as one of the guys commenting on things. I'm like, bro, how are you famous?
No, because like the backstory about Stephen Bradbury's had heaps of injuries. Like he sliced his neck like on the ice skates, and then he was like about to die. There's like
Oh.
heaps of stuff.
I love how
The
you
whole-
tell stories.
With a smile on your face.
He's about to, like grinning like a Cheshire cat. While I talk about Stephen Bradbury's near-death
Potential
experience.
death.
Oh, guys, I've got to send you these videos, mate. The Olympics do like really good, like 15, 20-minute biopics on these people.
I worry about what you spend your time on sometimes.
I know, but it's an iconic moment. But Cathy Freeman.
Next up, we have the Socceroos in 2005 winning the penalty shootout to qualify for the 2006 World Cup. Aloisi.
I'm so biased with these.
Mm.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Right, I'll tell you what I was doing in that moment. I was at a pub with my dad.
Dude, you're
You're
like
how old?
6 or 7. No,
Yeah.
you're 8.
I was 8, but we were in a pub with my dad, and it was just me and him. And I remember like watching the penalty shootout on the TV, and it was like the first memory I had of me bonding with my dad because we went absolutely nuts when Aloisi scored the goal, takes his shirt off, doing one of these ones.
So cool.
Your first moment bonding with your dad was at the age of 8. Your next was at the age of 23.
No, it's the first one I remember because it was just me and him. It wasn't everyone around us. It was just me and him in the little pub. I actually think it was the local at Amoga,
Oh,
potentially. Potentially, though my memory is.
You know, not confirmed details there.
Mm.
okay, your beautiful story aside, the actual moment itself, like in terms of bringing a nation together,
Oh,
The commentary says it all, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
Pure emotion.
it was
I think also what it meant for the sport.
yes.
It was a turning point for sport. And no, this is not discrediting what Cathy Freeman did, but I don't think that many more people started doing 400 meter.
Yeah. I think it's safe
But
to say that.
I think Aloisi did what we need. And also, like, let's talk about Mark Schwarzer too, the saves that he made as well. I think it was the second pen or something he
Yeah.
saved. That is iconic in itself as well because it led to Aloisi
Yeah.
winning for us. But what he did for the sport was huge. You look at Johnny Warren and and all that they had done for football in Australia. And then it was that moment that consolidated for them, that all the work that they had done to build a squad that could make a World Cup, they'd done it. And we were now part of I have no words. That moment was crazy.
I think that moment is what made me a football fan as well. Because I think before that, I was playing baseball as a kid, but then after that,
What
World
is new
Cup.
information?
You ain't know that?
Nah.
That was a big time pitcher back in the day. Besides the point, I watched a lot of football then, watched the World Cup because Australia were in it as well.
Yeah.
Had a lot of interest, and then from there it was all. So yeah, I'm one of those.
Because from there as well, the A-League became a thing as well. They created the A-League, and football in this country went from being like a niche sport behind like the likes of rugby league, AFL, cricket, into being seen as a proper sport that people take seriously.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most participated in sport, but then when it gets to mainstream sport broadcasting and stuff, it doesn't have a big chunk in terms of viewership and whatnot. But I think everyone can safely say that they've had some involvement with the sport.
Yeah.
The majority of people. You've played some version of it, casually or competitively, whatever it might be. But that moment, I think your point was huge. It built a new fan base, and it's something everybody can recall, everybody can remember.
So we're saying above Cathy Freeman. To be fair, it's unfair on Cathy. It's one person versus 11 people on a field.
No, but you're right. Like, to be fair, I'll give Cathy props. The 400-meter sprint is like one of the most difficult Olympic events because it's like on that threshold of like your where it's like you're sprinting for almost all of it, but your like lactate levels get so high that it just like starts burning after 250. Yeah. But
I love when you talk dirty like that. That shows your lactate levels.
John Aloisi though, like I think because it was in such like a it was penalty shootout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just such a they didn't just win 2-1. Exactly.
Not to
Context
mention
makes it.
Australia hadn't qualified for a World Cup since 1978 or 74.
Low-key, I thought the World Cup, everyone just gets in. At the beginning.
Well, soon it will be. They're moving to 48 teams or some shit?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it would be like 2 teams miss out.
yeah.
One of them's San Marino and then gambling the other one. But yeah, the celebration I've seen millions of times.
But how many kids you reckon at school that day took
Taking
up their
their
shirt and just waving it around? Do you know what I mean? Like
That is
it's
true
up
though,
there.
yeah.
It's up there.
That's actually,
Yeah, but didn't you buy a sperm suit to exhibit Cathy Freeman? I don't know.
Because I remember as a kid, I'm pretty sure we tried to recreate the Aloisi penalty shooter at school like that week or the next day or whatever. All right, so next up, we've got the Socceroos versus the 2023 Australian men's cricket team winning the ODI World Cup. So, Kat, your thoughts on that?
I do remember when it happened.
Yeah.
But I'm not a cricket galley. So I want you to sell this to me.
All right.
All right, the sell is this, right? And I think still John Aloisi takes it through, but Cricket World Cup 2023 held in India. India were like the heavy favorites. Like they had this stacked team. They were packing out stadiums. Australia had like a very like pretty average campaign leading up to like the World Cup. They verse India in the group stages and lose.
They got pumped.
Yeah, they get hammered. And then everything happens. India goes to the World Cup final undefeated against Australia, who had done pretty well. They just lost against India, I think. And they go head to head. And then in their own backyard, Australia clinically delivers a performance with Travis Head making like 120 knot in a World Cup final. So
it was in India's backyard, like you said, at a packed stadium, 120,000 people, all Indian fans, in a stadium named after the Indian president. So like degrees of difficulty, very high. Wow. And this Indian team had won 10 in a row, were the number 1 ranked team in the world, had the best batter in the world, had the best bowler in the world.
Wow.
They're all being streamed by like 2 billion people.
Yeah.
Do you think for cricket fans this is the pinnacle?
No, and this is why, right? For Australia, no one really cares about cricket that much.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like expected that Australia wins these things. There was no like ticker tape parade when, the boys got home, this and that. So like, it was a monumental achievement, but I think in terms of like iconic levels.
But it should be iconic,
it should,
in my opinion.
That's
like
the problem.
when you describe it like that, I obviously work in sport to the extent I see this stuff going on, but I never understood it as much context as that. When you paint it like that, that is monumental.
Like going in, Australia, I reckon, were 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th favourites to win.
Wow.
Like no one gave them a chance.
Yeah.
How many teams play?
I think there was
12, 14 World Cup. But I think no one cares like that much in Australia. Like, Australia won the World Cup. It's like,
But
Let's jump.
it was a if you know sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like if you cared about it and followed it, you knew that it was insane what they achieved.
Yeah.
But respectfully,
Yeah, respectfully.
Soccer-
Not
Socceroos.
as iconic.
No way.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I actually am struggling to find a more iconic moment. So I'm hoping you have something in the bank.
Well, I'm glad you said that. So for the last round, up against the Socceroos, we have the 2023 Matildas penalty shootout. Well, Kat, you were there that night. Talk us
I
through
sure
it.
was.
How was the feeling in the stadium?
The feeling in the stadium was crazy. It was crazy. The was palpable. Funny thing for me though, once again with this whole interview thing, I was watching the majority of the game from the media area, which is kind of 3 levels up. And then we're at Suncorp. Their media area is underground, kind of on the same level as the pitch. So players have to come through, do their interviews, and then head out to the general media area and then do their thing. So you have to go down to the media area. It's a room like this. No windows, nothing. You feel like it feels like a
Jail cell.
It feels like a jail cell. It's got lots of TVs, so you can see what's happening with the game, but it's soundproof because you do media, and it's just got cameras everywhere. It's very sterile. So you have to come down about 15 minutes before the game actually ends. So penalties were announced. So they said, okay, we're moving into pens now, down to the media area. I was like, awesome. So I've spent the entirety of this game on the edge of my seat watching it in live time, and now I have to go to a jail cell for the penalties. Anyway, so I go down. Obviously, the highlight is that I will be talking to the girls after this, but you're also thinking, my job's on the line because my job was based on how well the Matildas did. So if they bowed out in these pens, I don't know what my job looks like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then if they win, I'm obviously really excited to talk to them. So we go down and there's a few of us media people all waiting. And we're now watching the pens on a TV screen, but they're happening 100 meters to our right. And because of broadcast delay, I could hear the result before I saw it. The stadium was shaking. I will never forget this moment because of the unique way in which I had to experience it. Because I had to go back and like watch it all on TV. What did they actually look like? How did the girls actually kick? Because we're so focused on what's going on. But the roar when Courtney Vine scored, and there was, like I said, that delay was about 3 seconds. We see her kick, and then the stadium was like shaking, and we're like, she got it. And then, of course, we see it on TV, but that moment was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Is this the one we watched on the screens outside Sydney Olympic Park?
Yeah, Rose said Tumble.
Oh,
It was Cathy Freeman Park, and they set up massive screens to watch the game.
Yeah,
We had a similar
it was against
experience.
France.
Yeah.
Slightly similar experience. So the TV about 50 meters away was like a second ahead.
Yeah.
So obviously penalties, we could barely see that screen, but we could definitely hear and see the people. So like we kind of knew if it was going in or not, but
I didn't
still
mind
electric.
That. No, I didn't mind that because I was getting like my heart rate was getting so high that I was honestly like happy to hear the crowds. Like it was such a big relief.
But also when you knew, like, if one of the girls was taking a pen and you heard nothing, like silence, like, oh,
They
no.
missed.
Yeah, I know.
No, because everyone kept missing. Like there was heaps of missing.
So many
Killing
misses.
saved. Not
And
missed.
Yeah. It's
what about when Mackenzie Arnold, she let one in and then she saved the next
Yeah.
one? I was
Oh
like,
my goodness.
yes. That's what you do when you fail.
Yeah.
You get back up and you save it. Whoa, passion.
But the thing about that penalty shootout was just the sheer emotional journey
Yeah.
through that entire thing, just the highs and the lows. And in the end, how many was it? Like 11 or 12 each that they took?
Yeah, it was the most in any women's World
World
Cup.
Cup.
Yeah. It could be in
Insane.
any World Cup. I can't quite remember the stat, but crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Are we saying it's more iconic than Aloisi?
I think two things play into it for me. One, I'm a lot older.
Mm.
I processed it very differently. I was there for it. I was in the environment. So for me, it's such an unforgettable moment. Aloisi had a different feel about it.
Mm.
So I feel like I'm a little biased towards the Matildas moment because of the weight of it.
Yeah. Not to mention it was a quarterfinal of a World Cup to qualify for a semi-final of a World Cup, which Socceroos have never made it that far in.
Yeah. And it's women's football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
What it did for the sport and women's football, like everyone was into it.
Well, yeah, exactly. At work, like, because during the 2022 Men's World Cup, like, obviously the football fans at work were talking about it, but that was about it.
Yeah.
But during the 23 Women's World Cup, everyone at work was talking about it. Like, my directors, like the people like way older, like everyone was just like, oh, I'm trying to get tickets, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it was so
blah.
impossible to get tickets as well. Like, I think Australia just got around football and women's football in particular from the
Yeah, it
World Cup.
was- I think the legacy that moment left behind for women's sport in general, this isn't just football either.
Yeah.
It's as we head into AFLW and NRLW and the cricket, obviously I feel like women's cricket, they really set the bar for the way that you look at them as being just as skillful as the men. But this was the moment where the Matildas silenced anyone who doubted whether or not women's football was watchable or entertaining or any of that. But I think it will have a ripple effect on other women's sport. So I think I would say that moment was more iconic.
And I think it's cool that this generation of kids have so we had the Aloisi moment. This generation of kids will have now the Matildas.
moment.
And people also compared it to a Cathy Freeman moment as well in what it means for young women and having someone to look up to, whether it's a Mary Fowler or a Sam Kerr, Steph Catley, whoever it is. They've got these Cathy Freeman-like figures now that they can look up to.
Not to mention as well, the World Cup was here in our own backyard, which added a lot of extra pressure onto the girls.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say this is the most iconic.
Yeah, I was ravenous. Like for every Matildas game. Like I went to the World Cup final by myself. One ticket. I just bought the ticket and went.
Respect.
Yeah, because I'm remembering now how much of like a hold that tournament had in the country.
Such a hold, dude.
Do you know what I mean? Like we couldn't get any Matildas tickets, so we just watched it like in these not the stadiums, but like the watch-alongs.
They had all the fan zones and stuff.
Yeah, so I also happy to put the Matildas moment as like the most iconic.
I love how we caught so many people off guard.
Yeah,
FOMO.
yeah.
Because leading up, obviously working in it, I was doing content for Optus Sport 100 days out, talking about the qualification process and going to the playoffs in New Zealand. I did all these things, and you talk about it, and no one knew anything going on. And then it was so cool, but also a bit of a like,
Yeah, we showed you
when it got to the start of it, I guess, and that FOMO started to build, and everybody was like, "Oh, I wish I'd known about it." And like, it was out there.
Yeah.
But I also do think I thought initially FIFA hadn't done enough to promote it because they really just did like a 1 month push beforehand as opposed to 6 months before like we tend to do with the Men's World Cup. But I think they promoted it at a time where it would be relevant and people would go, "Oh, cool, it's coming up. It's soon." Not let's build some momentum for 6 months down the track. So I think they did it the right way.
I also think the Matildas they were good. Like I think if they weren't good, it would have had less of a like impact. But I think because they actually had a very good chance of progressing to like these later stages, I think everyone just backed them.
I agree. It does come down to how good of a team they actually were as well.
Yeah.
If they were out in the first round, it wouldn't have had such an impact on the country.
Alrighty, that leaves us with the Matildas, the most iconic Australian sporting moment. I should have caveated this before, of the 21st century. If you're wondering why Dawn Fraser wasn't there or anyone of that ilk, let us know if you agree with that or if you disagree.
Or if we've missed any.
Or if we've missed any.
I'm sure we've missed some.
Oh, heaps.
Yeah.